but we need to go beyond that. In certain contexts, standardization might help. In certain contexts, the so-called rationality and objectivity might help. But when the question of people's welfare, people's peace and harmony, building such societies, you need to go beyond such standardized technologies and invent a new language of engagement. Engagement should be not just a cognitive engagement with students, not just a social engagement with students, not just an emotional engagement with students, but engagement for me is moral engagement, ethical engagement. This is the most important aspect of teacher education, which we are forgetting. So friends, I have many other ideas, but I will share in other forums. Now, I'll stop it here. And I thank, department, especially Professor Naushad Saab for giving me this great opportunity. And thank the university, because Manu is such a great university. It's a very good reputed university in this country. And I am very proud that I am a member of Academic Council of Manu. And I have been learning continuously from the School of Education faculty, and it's from their students. And I'm very happy that today I could share some of my ideas with all of you. And if these ideas will generate some kind of discussion, I will be very happy. And I request Naushad sir to open the debate.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Vanaja, madam.
Yes, sir.
Ji, please ask questions.
Yes, sir.
And also, madam, one thing I want to mention, that questions need not be addressed to me.
Sir.
When you start questioning, others also can contribute, because it is a collective, we are not individual,
Yes.
we are collective.
Yes,
In that way, we need to think about it. I don't have answers to all your questions, I am also start thinking about this.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Sir, at the outset, let me say it was really thought-provoking. There are so many comments in the chat boxes in both YouTube and our chat boxes. Some of the words are, it is raising our emotional concerns, highly motivating, enlightening, informative. Thought-provoking provoking is a word which is there in lots of comments, sir. So these are the points, but there are a few questions which people have raised. The first question is from Ms. Rana Saeed. How can public health prevent suicides? Or she might be meaning education and public health, all these, how to prevent suicide. Related to this, there is another question by Mohammad Wakar, sir. How can we stop college students falling prey to drugs? So two people asking, as educators, how can we stop students falling prey to drugs? And how can public health prevent suicides?
Yeah, these are very important questions, but I may not answer fully, but I make an attempt. Suicide, there is a lot of research on suicide today, because that is one of my interesting areas also. Why people commit suicide? Primarily, you can have two important factors. One kind of factor is the internal factors, and other factors are social factors or external factors. See, when the system is generating a lot of pressure, okay, a lot of pressure on students. Pressure, you need to understand pressure, the complexity of the pressure. It's not simply, physical pressure of examination burden, not like that, but the kind of, people feeling insecure, people feeling not with self-esteem, there are so many things, because that itself is a very internal dynamics, is a very, the external dynamics are very complex. So people get involved, in making attempt or committing suicide because of external factors. Internal, there are so many theories which are, because some people have the tendency, biological or genetical tendency to commit suicide. This is not visible, but the hardcore research in neurobiology talks about this, that there is a genetic mutations and transformations happen within human beings. Some people, which, from the, maybe some of the genes may have in 7 generations ago, they might have some kind of thing and gets mutated, and it appears in the form of, emotional outburst and committing suicide. That is one thing. So as a public health, we need to start, addressing the system. For example, you see, intermediate education system is a very complex system. It brings a lot of pressure on students. There is a parental aspiration, society aspiration. Everybody should become an engineer, or everybody should become a... No, these are all different kind of demands. These are all neoliberal market constructed demands in one way. Because they are opening some company somewhere in Gachibowli and they need some people. So they have started engineering colleges across. So parents are aspiring that our children should get employed. This is a very long nexus, this is a very long chain, So where to address, how to address some of these issues is very, very complex. So somewhere we need to start as a public health educator, somewhere we need to start. Maybe counseling parents or counseling, the educationists, counseling, at a different levels, you need to think about, because I cannot answer you right now immediately. And when you come to the drugs, this is also internal and external, but mostly external. The drug mafia in this country state is not controlling it. In some places, state encourages this mafia. There is a connection between, enforcement law and, agencies and, the mafia. These are all revealed in many cases. So we need to think seriously and start, exploring how this mafia work. Because that's a part of our life. Our own children are consuming drugs. And recently in Vijayawada, there are so many stories about how children are consuming drugs. On TV, I have seen a couple of weeks ago. Everywhere, this is near to my university, Sitapal Mandi. There are so many students who consume drugs. From where they are getting, how they are getting, who is supplying, and who are the people who are responsible for this, and how the bada people are involved in this kind of nexus, and what are their market interests, how they are destroying the health of our children and families. So addressing this is a very big question. So we should start thinking about it. I don't have an answer right now to share it with you, because all of us should collectively think about it, how to stop this kind of thing, how to counsel people, where to counsel, I don't know, where to start, somewhere, but we have to start, we have to think seriously, question these things.
So the next question is from one Mr. Raja Hassan. He's a research scholar from University of Kashmir. His concern is, how can a research scholar improve his mental and emotional health? He means to say, how can he be emotionally and mentally fit in this situation of pandemic? Maybe some boosting, sir. There are lots of other students who are asking, so how you could just build their confidence that everything will be better in a few days to come or a few weeks to come.
I don't know how to answer this question, but one thing is, we should start working. We should not stop working. You see, don't think that there is a doomsday ahead. No. Let us all think that there is a beautiful day ahead. We are going to have a beautiful morning, a beautiful society we are going to see and we are going to live. So with that hope, with that creating such kind of possibility, positive thinking always, I think, solve that problem. Start writing as a research scholar, start thinking about it, publish papers, discuss with your friends. And there are so many now webinars and so many things. Share your ideas and also extend your support and help to people who are in need. That gives you a lot of service. You can see your divinity in extending service to people. So that is the way we can live strongly as a research scholars, as a faculty. The same question to me also. Okay, I should be very bold, to tackle the challenges. Thank you for asking this question. I should start thinking about it.
Sir, sure. So thank you so much, sir. Sir,